Thank you for coming back. We are on our last segment of Business Bookend and wanted to this week talk about a book I read, I'd say somewhat recently, titled Thank You for Being Late by Thomas Friedman. And I wanted to talk about the title real quick before we dig into the book. And that being Thank You for Being Late, and how he came to that title was he was sitting and waiting for a friend. And I don't remember exactly if it was a train station or a restaurant exactly, but nonetheless, he was waiting for him and they were running late, and it just allowed him to eavesdrop on different conversations. And it allowed him to just think about what would he do in whether it be those situations, or just gave him time to think in general, just about things. And I think that's an interesting perspective for the fact that we all have technology at our fingertips and we all want to be entertained so often. Um, and I think there's a lot of value in just disconnecting a little bit and allowing yourself to think about, if there's an issue, to think through that issue versus just filling your brain with fillers and scrolling through the inevitable social media of next, 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 next. And again, I don't feel like that's where true creativity really comes from. Nonetheless, that's how he came to the title of the book. Is his friend apologized. I'm so sorry for being late. He's like, no, thank you. Thank you for being late, because it gave him that time to reflect himself and created one of those moments for him to think through that.
And now before we go into have this like nice intellectual discussion, um, I would love to hear the way that both y'all waste times, because I got like a million and one in my back pocket that I thoroughly enjoy, but I know they're complete wastes of time. Um, Peter, what's a guilty pleasure that's to just cook off an hour or two that's just you?
It's always good to get on the grill, flip something, because at the end you get to enjoy that. That's definitely uh
You're a good
one of
cook.
my faves. Yeah,
I,
spending time with my son now. You're looking at 41 years of not having that, and now I've been enjoying it the last 2 years. So it's not a guilty pleasure, but it's definitely something I enjoy. But more of the guilty pleasure. I mean, ah, can't
what's
really think
the
of one.
what's the go-to cut of meat or thing to throw on the Barbie then? What do you make a wicked one? Yeah, Queen of England's coming over, president, whoever you want. There comes
Uh,
Aunt
I, I,
Rhody, and you're
a
making them
nice.
something.
I would like to probably cook them a nice ribeye.
Ooh,
Yeah, with some cauliflower and some asparagus, probably. Yep,
mm,
just
talking my language.
nice,
Okay.
nice corn on the cob. So yeah, that's definitely, for some people. I know it's a strain to be in the kitchen, but for me, no, it's therapeutic actually, because I really try to look at it as I'm cooking for my wife, who's taking care of my kids, and if she doesn't eat good, she's not going to take care of the kids good. And um, it just it goes back to what Nick had said about making it into a positive. And for me, yeah, I'm probably perspiring and I'm a little tired, but at the end, when she's like, "Oh, I feel so good. Thank you. That was so delicious." It makes me feel good. And, my son just changing things up. A great eater. He's not very picky. So I definitely have to say the whole cooking is something that I really enjoy. And it's a break from everything, and, you get to really see the finished product and how much you put into it when your audience is enjoying it, or your people. It's great for me.
Nice. Love that. Nick, what do you waste time on?
Phew. Not something as productive, that's for sure. I'm guilty of sports. I'm a sports fanatic junkie. Don't follow any specific team per se. Just want to know what's going on, whether it be the NCAA tournament, who's playing who just beat who, whether it's the men's, the women's, NFL, basketball, soccer. Like I'm that's my guilty thing of Sports Center. And it's like on in the background. Not that I'm literally just sitting on a couch watching it for 2 hours, but getting lost and paying attention enough to say, yeah, I'm not as productive as I probably should be, or could be, for, I don't know. It happens. It happens. So Jay, let's throw that one on you.
Boy, do you guys make me feel like a piece of crap. That's not, you guys are like, oh, I do it in the background. I'm productive. I cook for my family. I'm like, so I like to play auto chess, which sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is, but I like doing the strategy games and stuff. It's all on the phone. I learned, gave up actual console gaming and computer gaming after my son was born because you guys know you don't have you stop hearing them. You see that they go out of your line of sight and then you don't hear anything. That's when you know something's up, usually like a splash in the toilet. So everything I do now is just on my phone for some sort of games, but it's a way for, I think it's that whole completely detaching from reality at the end of the day is still what I do. Now it's only or mostly just in that time where I'm sitting in a room while my 1.5-year-old is falling asleep. And that's about it that I can get in, because otherwise it's just all the other stuff that you get to do that
Yep.
you're graced with doing as a family man, whether it's laundry. Breaking Bad has been a big thing right now. We watch that when the kids are asleep, do some laundry, have some wife and husband time watching a show about cooking meth. So good times. Let's
Well,
hop.
to hop back on the business book rabbit hole. With one piece that's always stuck with me since I read it is he presented the idea that never have we been as technologically connected or connected through technology as we are today. Yet such a profound disease that we still have, and really more now than ever, is isolation. So never have we been more technologically connected, yet experience so much isolation simultaneously. So just an interesting thought that,
Yeah.
like I said, it's always been there in the back of my mind. Like, true.
And
Fact.
and let's even during the whole pandemic, I think the people that were struck hardest by this were children for a bunch of reasons. First off, parents are still, it's almost like you're seeing your parents be more emotionally disconnected from you because you're seeing them 8 hours a day more, but at the same time, they're not focusing on you. So that's definitely something that kids had to understand, parents had to understand. Peter, you're working with kids on a daily basis. Um, what does that look like when you see, say, like a brand new kid that has not been a part of a group like what Boys and Girls Club provides? And so when they first start and they're used to being disconnected with people, they're only connecting with people via text or online when they're playing with friends. How does that look versus being at the Boys and Girls Club and interacting with other kids for however long, a few months, a year? What does that progression look like on an individual level? And is there any particular people that kind of jump out to you like, oh, this is a perfect example of what happens? Or maybe there's just an overall rule. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think, just to back up a little bit, in the beginning of the pandemic, I know the Boys and Girls Club, it really, for us, it brought out our creativity. You had staff jumping in the vans and going to the members' houses and tossing a water balloon and some little man-made hat. One of the staff members did, which was a brilliant idea. They were celebrating their graduation with posters and streamers and showing up at their door. So just keeping that relationship and that connection together. I know staff were putting together little care packages and kids were given a little curriculum to do these things at home. So we had to really get creative and think outside of the box so that, one, we don't lose our kids, and two, we stay connected with them. Um, it was a big taking because this was something we've never done before. But I think with the whole pandemic, you have to improvise, and be innovative to keep our kids. And it's been successful, but we did see a a decrease in our numbers. Then when everything with the computers and the schools started handing out laptops so that the kids could stay connected, we did our best. We got our connect. We had to get more internet. Get our internet going for all our kids, and being able to hold all the computers at the same time. It was just, it was a tall order, and we were able to kind of stumble a few times, but definitely come out on top. When the kids come in from being isolated so long, it was, you can definitely see a change. You can see a bit of a distance, but I think the staff at all of our sites were really prepared to come into this, and like, hey, we need to recognize those kids. We need to see how we could get them engaged and pull them back, and have them have some sort of buy-in from them. And so the relationships with the staff and the kids was very crucial too. I think now we're still not at 100% to capacity with our at our sites, but we're starting to do more recruitment, and the numbers are starting to pick up. We lost a few kids who didn't come back to the program just for personal reasons. They just chose to stay home or whatnot. But a good majority of our kids did come back. So it's talks about just the remarkable staff that we have in the team, and just our administrative staff just going out there and trying to find ways to keep this funding going for these new expenses that you don't include, you don't see. But with a pandemic, nobody's seen that coming. So we were blindsided, and at the end, we came out on a good end, and we still have our kids, and we're starting to increase, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a brilliant story, and I'd like to just briefly share how I even got introduced to the Boys and Girls Club myself, because as we said at the beginning of this, I've only known Peter, gosh, a month-ish, maybe a little longer. But my first meeting for the Monrovia Rotary had the Boys and Girls Club, just happened to have the Boys and Girls Club presenting kind of their story and how they were able to navigate through the pandemic, and what they are as a local program. So though I wanted to get myself involved in 2 or 3 clubs, and really solidify myself in my community. And the day they presented, the fact that John, being the CEO for, yep.
Yep.
John's the CEO club here in Monrovia, and he just shared how engaged they were trying to get with the kids, to engage them, as well as taking the initiative. I think those are 2 things that stuck with me, because I think, unfortunately, there were and are a lot of individuals or companies that choose to wait. I'll wait and see how this thing pans out, and we'll see where all the chips fall, and then whatever comes my way, comes my way. And personally, psychologically, that's not how I work. I like to take initiative and want to align myself with individuals, companies that look at life and scenarios the same way. And so when that story was shared, I was like, I need to be a part of that. So then I reached out, and I think that day or the following day, and then Peter and I got to talking, and now I'm finding myself volunteering a couple days a week at the Boys and Girls Club. But that's how that happened organically. And I think it's just a really neat story to hear how a local club that doesn't have any responsibility necessarily to say you've had to do that. It's just, guys, we have to be more creative and find a solution to this problem because we want to do that. I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, and then the whole fact of the whole Zoom piece that everybody was handicapped by, and to facilitate discussions or activities, again, just to keep the conversation going. Because I know in a prior discussion, Jay and I talked about remote work. How do you build culture when you're on Zoom and when you're just linking in one time a week? And I think one way you can try to navigate that as best you can is facilitate conversations, create different opportunities that you wouldn't create face to face, to again have those, to be able to think through situations and still collaborate, and still create something unique of like, well, that was different, that was fun, versus just settle for, we'll chat a little bit, and you walk away from it and say, meh, how was it? Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
So
100%. It's definitely that engagement piece, and what kind of engagement. I think for so long it was just being engaged, being a part of something better was kind of the status quo. As long as you're a part of something, no matter how you're doing it, that's good. And I think COVID. Let's take a quick lesson from that. In that, just being around, just talking to other people itself doesn't ultimately make you fulfilled with that human connection piece of things. It does. You do need to have that physical connection. You do need to be able to see people, interact with them, and especially with your peer group, which is what the Boys and Girls Club is really great at doing. I think that we've covered this as best as we can, but I do want to finish this discussion with just one question referring back to thank you for being late, which is, what do you think is the most important skill for individuals to possess in order to thrive in today's world?
Peter,
Just
anything?
a casual question to finish up Friday for you, Peter. So, and you are muted, Peter.
Yep. I definitely feel to thrive, it would be to have compassion, definitely, for others. It goes a long way, and it goes everything what we pretty much covered in this conversation, with just feeling good about yourself and helping others. It goes full circle, and turning a negative into the positive and seeing the positive aspects of it. And I mean, that takes compassion. You can't just pick that up. You gotta, and I think one of the things that we focus on, and as a parent, I do it. I try to teach my son. Here at the Boys and Girls Club, we've purchased some lizards so that the kids can learn compassion, and even if they don't have it, just adopt it, because they're caring for a little animal. I mean, I read somewhere that children, if they see a squirrel in the park and they've never had any interaction with an animal, they try to chuck a rock at it. So what I did is I went home and I bought my son a fancy gecko. So we let him hold it a little bit every now and then, to pet it, to touch it, but it takes practice, and just having that compassion. I think it's something special that everybody should have, or. Yep.
One, I'm gonna piggyback that to say, as they continue to get older, because I think it's not realistic for the younger kids, I don't know, to have this quality, but to thrive as they get older is self-awareness. And again, that's something that's realistically developed as you get older. Nonetheless, that ability to reflect on your experiences, to look at yourself in the mirror, because I think it is so easy to blame. Well, Peter didn't do that for me. Well, Jalen's holding me back. It's like, well, hold on, time out. Who's guiding the story of that of your life that you're living? Right. And I think it's so easy to place the blame elsewhere, and that ability to be aware of, what am I doing? Who am I surrounding myself with, and taking responsibility for that. Again, to allow anyone to thrive in the space they're in.
Oh yeah, and I'm just going to steal both of yours because they were good answers, and I don't know what else to. A compassionate person is one of the strongest forces in the world, and you can only be compassionate when you're able to have that self-awareness. And I think wrapping it all back together, interacting with others, so having compassion for others, and being able to compare your experience to someone else, or understand that someone else's experience is different from yours, is going to be what generates that compassion, and having full self-awareness. I think that's an awesome place to wrap up this conversation. I don't think that we can solve the most important skill for an individual in a 10-minute segment on a 30-minute podcast. But now, Peter, before we let you go, and we appreciate you taking more than enough time with us today, Nick is going to roast you on the hot seat. Metaphorically, this isn't so we want to have a little bit of sense of discomfort, but really just go with the first thing that comes to mind on the